be there for your kids and let them know that it is perfectly okay to have questions and to be worried and to be scared. And just be there to answer any questions that they might have. Make sure that you're empathizing with them as well, and let them know that it's okay to be scared sometimes or worried, and that you are going to help them navigate through everything. Be really honest and accurate with the information that you have. Kids are more in tune to what's going on than we might think, even very young kids. So even for kids who are not really able to express how they might be feeling, or who aren't saying anything at all, they can still be really picking up what's going on around them. And obviously for most kids, schools are shut down, they're not going to preschool, they've had to reschedule play dates, or in some instances even really important occasions like birthday parties and things like that. So as adults, sometimes we can definitely get preoccupied with the bigger adult concerns, right? And that is so important as well for us to be able to figure out how are we going to move forward with our families and how do we get through this. And the concerns that kids have may seem trivial, but they're very, very real for them. So it's really important to validate that, to empathize with them, and just be there to listen and talk. But when we do give them information or answers, we want to make sure the answers we're giving are accurate and honest. And if we aren't doing that, kids are going to come up with their own ideas, and they could be a lot worse than what we're thinking as well. Or they could be really minimal and they don't necessarily understand the reasons for why they have to do things like limit play dates and stuff like that. You want to make sure as well that you're not over exaggerating things. You don't want to instill fear in your kids or anxiety in your kids. And the way that we cope with this, the way that we answer our kids' questions, is really going to determine how they respond in this whole situation as well. They really do take their cues from us as parents, because we are their safe place. We are the people that they turn to and look up to know how to move forward. We definitely want to make sure that when we're answering those questions that we do that in a calm manner and in a way that isn't going to make our kids feel more scared or more unsure of things. The whole purpose of us answering their questions is to really help them feel more safe, more secure, and let them know that as adults we can handle this, we will handle this, and we're going to help them to be able to get through the challenges that they're facing and the concerns that they have about moving forward through all of this. It's okay to be really honest with your kids, but you want to limit the details that you're giving them as well. So make sure whatever answers you're giving your kids, it's age appropriate and developmentally appropriate. The information that we understand as adults is so different from what our kids understand. So when we get into details talking about germs and things like that, for really young kids, they don't actually understand that concept. And it really doesn't help to provide all of those extra details. And in fact, it can actually unintentionally do the opposite of that. So we want to, especially for really young kids, give them answers, make sure they're honest, but also limit the amount of details that you're giving to them, and make sure that whatever you are saying, they are developmentally able to understand. Oftentimes, especially for young kids, they're not looking for a big elaborate answer. They just want an answer. They just want to understand what's happening around them and what's going on, and that you're basically there to listen and to help them get through that. There's a ton of information going around out there on social media, in the news, and all over Facebook and everywhere else that really talks a lot about where COVID-19 started and all of the underpinnings of that. And there's lots of opinions on that. And regardless of what your opinion is, we want to limit blame. We don't want to show our kids that blaming other people is the way to go, because really we have a common enemy across the globe, and the enemy is COVID-19. It's not who started it, where it started, or what happened. And certainly our kids do not need to be exposed to those details. So make sure that when you are explaining things that you're keeping things very neutral, because it really will not help to settle their fears, and in fact it could actually make their fears worse, and it can just lead to obviously a whole host of other issues as we move forward. You really want to make sure you are limiting your adult conversations around the topic to times when your kids can't overhear that or they aren't present, because it's really important that we don't talk about a lot of details or information or our own fears or anxieties or concerns in front of our kids, around our kids, or anywhere where they can pick up on that, because even when we think they're not listening, they are. We don't want to expose them to all of the stuff going on in social media or the adult conversations or everything talking about financial crisis and all of that kind of stuff. It just is not going to be helpful for our kids. And in fact, we definitely need to, as adults, be able to talk about those things and understand those things, and have a place to go to get the answers that we're looking for. But doing that in front of our kids is actually potentially going to make things a lot worse for them and for our families. So you definitely want to limit that, of course. Our kids from birth learn to pick up on our very subtle physical cues, our very subtle facial expressions, tonality, all of the differences that we portray non-verbally, or even just with the inflection in our voice or our tonality. So it's so important that we really be very mindful, not just of what we're saying to our kids, but how we're communicating what we're saying. I mean, you can say the same sentence in so many different ways, and our kids are going to pick up on if we're scared, if we're anxious, or if we are feeling like we can't handle this, and they are going to be a lot more scared and fearful, and feel like we don't have this. And if we don't have this, then all of a sudden it creates this uncertainty and like a feeling like the world is just not a safe place. This is not a safe time. And we definitely don't want to instill those questions or concerns in our kids, right? We have to be the people who are being strong for our kids. And that doesn't mean that you can't have your own concerns or your own fears, but it does mean that you need to be really careful about how and when you express those, and to whom, and how we communicate to our kids about what is going on. One of the really common questions that you might get is, how come I can't go to school anymore, right? Maybe your kids are in kindergarten or grade school or preschool, or maybe even daycare. And they may want to know, like, why can't I go here? And for other kids, they may not be able to verbalize that. Maybe your kids are really young, 1, 2 years old, or 3, 4, but they're not necessarily asking those questions. They're still picking up that something is very different. They still, in their own developmental way, understand they're not going through their normal routines. They're not going to school. They're not doing the things that they normally do on a day-to-day basis. And they may not tell you in words, but they may tell you through their behavior. So you have to be really careful to monitor your kids' behaviors, pick up on their cues. Are they behaving differently than they typically do? Are they crankier? Are they just seeming like they don't really know what's going on? And it's okay, especially for kids who don't have the verbal abilities to communicate what they're feeling or the questions that they might have. It's okay to talk to your kids about that, and just even let them know something along the lines of, you know what, right now we are going to take a break from daycare for a little while, but we'll be going back again as soon as we're ready to do that. It can be really as simple as that. For kids who are a little bit older and understand school or kindergarten or preschool was shut down, you can still talk to them about that. You can still answer those questions. If they ask you something like, why can't I go to school? I want to go to school and see my friends. You can just let them know in a very matter-of-fact way that, you know what, right now we are just making sure that everybody stays healthy and stays safe, and All that means right now is that we just have to take a little bit of a break from daycare or kindergarten or school. But as soon as it's safe to go back, then we're gonna go back, and you'll get to see your teachers and your friends again, and we'll kind of be back to normal. But for now, we just need to take a little bit of a break. And that is all they need to know. They're just like us, they're just uncertain about what's going on. And they're not looking for big elaborate answers. Just answering something as simple as that will really help them move forward. And probably more often than not, they might just be like, okay, great, thanks, and carry on with the rest of their day. Why can't I have a play date? Or why can't I go to that birthday party that I was supposed to go to? It's very much about, you know what, there's some people that are sick right now, and we just need to take a little bit of a break from play dates so that we make sure that we don't get sick. And it's as simple as that. How do you talk to your kids when they ask you, like, why are people wearing those masks? Or how come people won't come close to us or give me a hug anymore? Or those kinds of questions as well. And while we as adults understand social distancing and the reason behind it and the purpose for it, our kids don't have that concept if they're very young children. And you know, for them, it's just so different than what they're used to. So when they ask you those kinds of questions, it's all about just letting them know, you know what, right now, people are just trying to keep a little bit further away from each other just to make sure that everybody stays safe and doesn't get sick. Again, it's really as simple as that. You don't want to go into a lot of detail about germs and how they're spread and all of that, because first of all, most kids, young kids anyways, really, they don't care about the details. They don't necessarily understand the whole concept of germs. What they do understand is staying safe and staying healthy. So you want to make sure that you're communicating that message. If you're out and about and they're seeing people wearing masks, and it's not typical of what we see, at least not in our community. So you might find that kids are asking about that. And again, it's just about reiterating, you know what, that's a really great question. And sometimes if people feel a little bit sick, they might just wear a mask to protect other people, or even if they just want to make sure they don't get sick, then sometimes they'll wear a mask to protect themselves. So, and just to keep themselves safe and keep themselves healthy. So again, very simple, very to the point. You don't want to get into a lot of details. And for young kids especially, that's good. And then they have a good understanding the next time they see somebody wearing a mask. They don't get scared or they don't get worried because you haven't gone into all of these details about people getting sick or, you know, dying or anything like that. So you want to make sure to keep it simple and neutral as well. If you really have to limit your time spent with family or friends, that can be really a challenge too. So maybe you have special things that you do with your family or your friends, or you have consistent play dates or family meals or those kinds of things where you go out with friends or extended family. And of course, those things for the most part are kind of coming to an end for a while now. So again, just answer your kids very plain, very simple, just about, you know what, right now we just have to take a little bit of a break, but that's okay. We can have our own special time here at home. We need to establish some sort of routines and expectations for our new normal. And for some people, you know, you're really gonna embrace this as a time to come up with really strong routines and schedules for being at home, just to keep yourself sane, your kids sane, and that's perfectly okay. Other people are going to take a little bit more of a relaxed approach and be like, you know what, this is a great time for us to just take a break, loosen up on some of the routines, and that's okay too. You need to do what is best for your kids and your family. But definitely, with that being said, you want to come up with some sort of a routine or your kids are going to get bored. I mean, all of us can only have free time for so long. And when young kids get bored, that can tend to lead to tantrums and misbehavior and fighting and all of the things that we don't want to see. So one thing too is that you might want to start to establish some sort of a routine. You can still get outside as long as, of course, you're not coming into close contact with other people. But it's sometimes nice to just get outside, get out of your house, because I don't know about you, but being stuck inside all day, it's just nice to get a little bit of a break. So establish some sort of routines that are going to be helpful for your family and your kids, and then you can even just sit them down and explain to them, you know what, it's going to be a little bit different, but this morning we're going to have some breakfast, and then we'll play a game, and then after nap time we'll go out for a walk. So just even giving your kids a bit of a heads up about what's going to be happening can be really, really helpful and make them feel less anxious or less concerned or less confused about what's happening, because you're telling them what to expect. So you don't have to have your whole next several months mapped out, but even especially for young kids, if it's just day by day, you can just let them know what to expect each day. And even for really young kids, it's just maybe what we're going to be doing next, right? So it's like, first we're going to finish our snack, and then we're going to go for a walk. So it can be as simple as that. And then after you walk, it might be, once we're finished our walk, then we're going to go have a nap, or whatever that might be for your schedule. Keeping our kids informed, but keeping the details minimized, and making sure that we are really just giving them the information that they require in a way that is very calm, very confident, and showing them that we've got this, then it's really going to just allow them to move forward feeling safe. And that's exactly what we want for our kids. This is a time of confusion and chaos and a little bit of uncertainty and uneasiness for everybody. And there's no judgment about how we're dealing with this. I think everybody is going to deal with this in very different ways. For some parents, you're not impacted all that much, especially for people who maybe are stay-at-home moms and they were at home with their kids all the time anyways. Their husbands are still working. Nothing's really changed other than maybe limiting play dates or not being able to get out and about. For other people, their whole entire worlds have been turned upside down. Their whole lives have been changing, and it can be a really, really challenging time. Regardless of where you're at on that spectrum, this is a time where everybody's being impacted globally in one way or another, and we're all just trying to figure out how to move forward in a way that is in the best interest of our kids and of our families. I think to expect full positivity is not realistic. You, as a parent, your kids, you're gonna go through times that are not positive, or you're struggling, or there are challenges. But one way that you can really try to continue to be positive and try to continue to keep things calm is just, like I mentioned, just really reiterate that, just be empathetic and understand and reiterate that, you know what, lots of us are going through these times and we don't know what to expect, and that's okay. And just try to be optimistic about, what we're doing right now is we're gonna do everything that we can to keep ourselves safe, keep our families safe, and make sure that, people don't get sick, and that's why we're staying home. Do things that are going to keep you mentally well, because even when we are stuck inside, even when there's not a lot that we can control, it's so important to focus on the controllables. Focus on the things that you can control. So for parents, especially if this is a really stressful time for you, maybe you have lots of kids home and you're not used to that, or you don't get to do the things that you normally do, like go to the gym or go for walks and things like that. It's really important to be able to find things that you can do for yourself that you enjoy, that keep you in that really positive mindset. And we're talking about just more general wellness principles. And it can be challenging, and it can be, especially if we're really anxious or really uncertain, it can be really easy to let our minds kind of take us to all these dark places or really scary places. But it's really important to remember that the way that we react to this is the way our kids are going to react to this. So keeping that in mind, it's going to be important to find things that you can do that are going to keep you mentally healthy and well, so that you can be in the best, most optimistic place for your kids and for your family. And you know, it might be that you just need to change up your routine a little bit. I know for me, I need time by myself. I need quiet, and with 3 kids at home and being stuck inside almost all day, every day, you know, that poses a pretty big challenge. So one thing that I do is I get up early before anybody else is awake, and I have my coffee and I read and I do things that help me stay in a positive mind frame. Maybe it's that you and your kids do yoga together, or you just stretch, or you just kind of run laps around your house, play tag, play hide and seek. Do things that are fun every day, because as soon as you stop having fun, as soon as you start just getting stuck in the cycle of negativity, it starts to get hard to pull yourself out of that. So just make sure that you're doing those kinds of things. Another really important point when we're talking about mental health and wellness, I mean, our kids also are, especially if they're a little bit older and they're in a preschool or kindergarten or daycare, they're used to getting a lot of physical exercise. And we know how important that is, just to get out their energy and just to help them stay healthy. So you'll want to think about ways of incorporating that into each and every day as well. So it might be going out in your backyard and playing tag. It might be doing jumping jacks. It might be just playing with a dog at home. There's so many different ways that you can incorporate exercise. It doesn't have to be like 30 minutes to an hour of exercise in one big chunk. You can do little things throughout the day just to keep yourself active, keep your body moving. If you're working from home, it's going to be a really big challenge. How do you keep working when you've got kids in the background and stuff going on? And it's really easy to kind of let them do their own thing, or there's going to be lots of increased screen time and stuff like that for some kids and some families. And I think right now that's okay, but you want to make sure that you're also putting some sort of a limit on it, because with too much screen time, kids oftentimes start to become more anxious, or you will see a lot more behaviors coming out as well. So if you start to notice your kids getting a lot more irritable or fighting with each other, or if you're noticing it's really hard to get them to put their screens away, that might be a time that you want to limit that as well, or make sure that you're setting some more boundaries around that. But I think right now everybody's just trying to figure out how to get by. You can even sit down with your toddler and just let them know, you know, we're going to take a break from playing with our friends for now, but instead, why don't we spend some extra time together? So it can be really as simple as that. Now, I don't know developmentally where your toddler's at or how much they can understand, but those could be some simple ways of addressing those challenges. This is a really good time to start teaching some of the language of emotions too. So if you notice that your child is tired, you could just say, you know what, I noticed you look a little bit tired today. They'll start to understand those feelings. Or I notice you're getting really frustrated, or I notice you really want to go outside right now. And use those opportunities as they come up to label their emotions, label what they might be thinking, and then address them as well. So, you know, it looks like you know, you're maybe they're grabbing at the doorknob. You could say something as simple as, it looks like you really want to go outside. Right now we have to take a break from going outside. And then you can use some redirection, but also let them know that you understand. I know it can be sad when we can't play with our friends, or I know it can be frustrating when we can't go outside. So label those emotions, and then also start to come up with solutions and help them find some other things they can do instead. At the core of our wellness are the things that we are doing to nourish our bodies and our minds every single day. So things like having certain routines, you know, getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, making sure our kids do the same as well, right? And eating healthy, all of those different things. The more that you focus on controlling the things that are in your control right now, and not allowing your mind to get kind of carried away with all of the what ifs, the better you're going to feel moving forward. If this has been helpful for you, or if you feel like it might be helpful for somebody else, then please go ahead, feel free to share it. Thanks, take care, and I wish you all the best in moving forward through all of this craziness.